So, my blessings I give to you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. This is the time that we go into our hearts and celebrate the new year with all its hopes and all its glories. We want the new year to start out right. We want everything to line up to our best interests. And when we accept and allow this, we want real change to happen. We want something that brings forth a greater love, a greater experience, more prosperity, and more abundance into our world. So if you look at the world today, there are many devastating things that are happening to the environment, to women's rights. There are thousands of children being slaughtered, starving to death, and being traumatized. And even if you think, oh, well, I'm fine where I am, the level of stress and trauma that comes from being witness to the suffering of others is devastating, because we are the other. We are the same life that's in us is in them. And we recognize that life. And so even though we may unconsciously not recognize it, at some level we do. So sacred activism for me has been the way that I have been able to, it's been the way that I've been able to hold the pain and the suffering of it, of things that I get angry about and I want to see change, and finding what my part to do in it. There's so much that can be done and it's overwhelming, but I really need to concentrate what my energies, what your energies will create the most important change. And that comes from being truly guided. And this is where our connection to the sacred is, and the sort of is the core thesis of my talk, that social justice issues may not have thought about in this way, but it is the need and for the rise of the divine feminine. See, we are 51% of the population, women that is, and it is well documented that when you fund a woman and she feeds the children and improves the community, when she receives funding. I am Christy Michelson. I am a priestess of Mary Magdalene, and I've been a social justice advocate for years. I had the good fortune of growing up in Hawaii, which is a multicultural, multi-ethnic community. My brother happened to marry a Hawaiian gal, and Hawaii was integrated at the time in the 50s, when this was not the case on the mainland in the Deep South. You know, one of my friends, her parents got married and they had to flee because it was illegal and not safe for them to be married. And so they moved to Canada. Whereas in Hawaii, the sailors that came over had no choice but to marry Hawaiian women. So it became a very integrated culture very quickly, and integrated marriages were very common, so nobody thought anything of it. There was segregation for sure, because people still identified with the race of their choice, but you had an economic thing happening because the rich Japanese and the rich Chinese would live among the rich Caucasians. So when I first moved to the mainland upon going to college, I remember driving in the streets of San Francisco trying to find out where I was going, and all of a sudden I noticed that I was in an area where there were no white people. I had never seen anything like this. There's nowhere in Hawaii that you can go where you won't see people of other races. So it was very shocking to me. And I was wondering what the hell's going on. So when I got to college, we had a racial incident happen on the campus. And I was outraged by this. I was like, what, why are people doing this and treating people this way? I'd never seen this before. And it was like really alarming to me. So I called a town hall meeting in the student hall, and all these students came out. And it was really interesting because it turned out that the students who had come, they knew to be afraid, and I didn't know to be afraid. So I kind of rose up from my innocence, and I had my courage to speak up was not really a true courage because I didn't know not to be. I didn't know to be without courage. So anyway, we are all human. So this leads me to my first tip of the day, which is that we have to accept the fact that we are all human. And that is what is so critical and so important. Tip number 2 is we need to learn about the sacred holy women who came before us who were suppressed. For the suppression of women has been one of the biggest social justice issues. And if I would say what is a core issue here, it's the fact that we lack the rise of the divine feminine. The priestess community is very marginalized. Most people don't even understand what that is. So just to give you an example about sacred holy women who were suppressed, do you know who Kasurba is? Most people I asked, who's Kasurba? Turns out she is Gandhi's wife. Gandhi is her husband. And it turns out that she was the one that put the idea in his head that he might want to try nonviolence as a pathway to be able to overcome the British. And she was the demonstration of how to do that for him. And so he learned much from her, and he attributes that to her wisdom as being the part. And there's a great new documentary out, which you need to go and see, that talks about the accidental activism of Kasturba. Anyway, do you know why Magdalene was suppressed? I think it's because, and you don't hear her being referred to as an enlightened, empowered woman. But it's interesting that suppression is only possible when you have a lack of open-mindedness. And as people become more open-minded and more conscious, things get revealed. So some people may not even realize the whole backstory behind the movie The Little Mermaid is about the raising of what has been suppressed about the empowered woman called the Magdalene. So, and I teach about that. It's an incredible story because it shows what's been elevated from the depths of the sea into the conscious awareness and gives us a chance to learn about what it is that she did that has made her so powerful and why she won't go away. So when you understand tip number 3, the core social justice issue here is the lack of sovereign women who know who they are. For these women who are connected to source, they raise healthy children. They don't raise unconscious children. And they're abundant and empowerment that they have because they know how to manifest and they have their own money. And we know that money is power, but more often than that, money in the hands of women means a better community. So this leads me to the third part of the deep opening in the sacred activism. And that is that when you join together in a unified, collaborative way, where we're united around the greater good and the greater good for everyone, we let go of the beliefs of being in greed and we move into the idea of sustainable abundance. We must join together and be as one. And this point, I have to stop and acknowledge Jessica Hardy, for she is bringing forth the principles of sacred activism in her business model. We must have a unified voice. We have not gathered as one in a cohesive and powerful way to end the environmental destruction on our planet by corporations and polluting, and Congress that's willing to go to war, by supporting women in a principal way of doing business through collaborative model. What creates a win-win is the laying of seeds of the foundation of real change. And this is where you see it in the fundamentals of the model of the priestess community. For in the priestess model, there's a deep nurturing. Beauty is part of it, caring deeply for community, which is what the priestess does, and the uplifting so that everyone can win and bring forth a high level of creativity that will create what is beyond the 3D model. Priestesses serve the community with her gifts and her talents, but she's also looking at how to support in a loving way the natural upliftment of the greater truth that she reveals a higher purpose because she uses tools of creativity and wisdom in her. I mean, just look at the leaders that we have right now, and can you say there's true wisdom there? I don't know. The best idea come forward when you have an exchange of hearts and minds. And so when there isn't that fear, people can gather and join together in a collaborative model, then you're going to end up having an enormous opportunity for success. So tip number 4 is about the real lasting sustainable changes and lies within. And this is within our soul. We seek the guidance at a heartfelt level about what it is to do and where you are to do it and how. So this guidance will give us the direction, and it helps us to learn that we are creator beings. We are love. We also allow ourselves to be loved and express love. And in that sharing and caring, we feel safer. It's more fun to work this way. We encourage each other to reach to the stars. And when women start making money at this level, then we find a more generous, compassionate world and a compassionate society. And so we join to allow the supporting. One thing is to raise the frequency to a higher level that is closer to the truth, justice, social justice, and the sacred activism is getting us closer to the truth. And the truth is we're not separate. We're all a part of the one life. Every person that you see that's alive is a human being, and we are all equal, male and female. And this is something that I still struggle with because of the anger that I have inside about the injustices in the world. And especially when I feel alone and wondering what can I do. This is the 5th principle of sacred activism. And that's the answer for real lasting change within. Peace, A Course in Miracles lessons that I love. It says, I choose peace instead of this. The guidance of what is that you are to do from within. And you connect with your heart. You seek guidance at the heartfelt level. And you sit quietly and you listen. And the answer will create the greatest, most powerful change of all. But it doesn't change it in the world, it changes it in you. So you become the peace, and you carry that peace, and it influences other people. and makes people understand because of your demonstration. And this reminds me of the woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1991, Aung San Suu Kyi of Burma, and she won it for her nonviolent struggle for democracy and human rights. In 1999, Time magazine called her one of the children of Gandhi, and his spiritual heir to nonviolence, which was so interesting because it was really Gandhi's wife. She was the one that really confronted Gandhi about his patriarchal ways with her as a woman. And when he realized she was right, he understood that he had to treat his wife as an equal if he wanted the Indian people to understand that they were equal to the British. So anyway, on on noon, I'm hoping I'm saying it right. I'm not sure how to pronounce. She understood that when you have this deep internal feeling of peace and a commitment to peace in the sacred way inside yourself, she walked through the town square, and the soldiers were trying to shoot her. They were trying to, but when she walked through the town square, and she was so full of peace, so dedicated. There was a movie that was made about the scene, and I remember watching it. One soldier says to the other, "No, you shoot her," and the other one going, "No, you shoot her." No, nobody wanted to shoot her because when they held up their gun and looked at her, she was so convicted in such a deep dedication of peace. So again, my gratitude to Jessica for her beautiful Fem Talks program and Fem Frequencies, and this way of doing business, which is to empower feminine priestesses and use the business model of the divine feminine. And this allows us to come to principle number 5, and that is, it is critical for your voice of suppression to stop. And I leave you here with a gift, my dedication and the work that I do to raise the voice of the suppressed woman who is demonstrated. So anyway, I am so grateful for you allowing me this platform to give me the opportunity to share with all of you, and go back and look through all the offerings. What are the women offering? They're offering a way for a better life. They're offering a way for people to be raised up and illuminated and receive their gifts of their talents and to be supported in the work that they do. So please join me with the stopping of the suppression of the empowered woman by learning the ancient ways of true masters like Mary Magdalene. In fact, I just recently did a video called Dr. Joe Dispenza, Meet Mary Magdalene, because, and I give it to you as my gift. You sign up on my website, gospelofmarymagdalene.info. I'll be happy to send you a copy of it. Thank you so much. Blessed be and happy, happy, happy New Year.